If history had a heartbeat, empires would all flatline the same way. Different flags, different centuries, same heart attack. We imagine collapses as dramatic finales, swords clashing, barbarians at the gates, flames on marble. But most empires don't die in battle. They die of bad accounting and denial. Here's the cheat code. If you want to see decline before the headlines do, don't look at the armies, look at the money. When coins shrink, when prices swell, when officials smile and say everything is under control, that's not reassurance, that's the soundtrack that plays right before the plot twist. Think of an empire like that friend who just got a raise. Week 1, new wardrobe, new car, drinks are on me. Week 12, maxed out cards, bro, can you spot me lunch? Rome did that, Spain did that, Britain did that. And today, well, let's just say some habits feel familiar. For 2 millennia, global powers have danced the 7-step routine. Win big, expand bigger, spend too much, run short, print money, trigger inflation, lose trust. That's it. Not prophecy, not conspiracy, just math wearing a cape. And the cape always slips. Now this isn't a doomer sermon. It's pattern recognition with jokes and decent lighting. We'll speed run 4 empires, Rome, Spain, Britain, and the United States. Not with dusty dates, but with receipts. Coin silver content, debt binges, price spikes, and those very confident speeches every empire gives right before the bill arrives. Because the fall never starts when a power is weak. It starts after the victory lap. When the map is huge, the bills are larger, and the money gets creative. Rome had the denarius, Spain had oceans of silver, Britain had the pound on every ledger. Each time, the same plot: greatness, overreach, financial aspirin, and then the headache. Quick metaphor break. Empires are like legendary bands. They begin hungry and brilliant. Then fame hits, the tour expands, the accountants get bold, and suddenly the 4th album is, well, experimental. Rome was the Beatles, Spain was Queen, Britain, well, the Rolling Stones, still touring long after the prime. The US, let's call it the Vegas residency, spectacular, expensive, and everyone's watching the box office. So here's our plan. First, the cycle in plain English. No econ jargon, just everyday logic. Then, 4 case studies with the receipts. Finally, we'll ask the only question that matters. Can anyone break the pattern or just delay it with style? Strap in. If you can read a grocery receipt, you can read an empire's future. And once you see the rhythm, it's hard to unhear it. Empires don't crash, they fade like Wi-Fi. Everything's fine until it isn't.
All right, let's talk about Rome, history's first rock star. They had it all: power, architecture, style, the confidence of someone who just invented civilization and now thinks they own it. Classic case of, we're Rome, what could possibly go wrong? Spoiler alert, everything. Rome started strong, man. Army of legends, roads everywhere, trade booming from Spain to Syria. And the denarius, their silver coin, was the gold standard of the ancient world. Pure silver, pure trust. Until, of course, the emperors started doing creative accounting. See, running an empire with legions, palaces, and free bread isn't cheap. And emperors were basically influencers with no budget discipline. When they ran out of cash, they just cut corners. Less silver in the coins, same face value. Boom, problem solved. That's what we now call currency debasement. But the Romans didn't say, we're printing money. They said, don't worry, it's still worth the same. Meanwhile, the price of bread doubled, soldiers got angry, and merchants started asking for payment and something that didn't melt in value every week. At first, no one noticed, same as always. The elites were busy throwing banquets, talking about eternal glory, wine, grapes, ego, repeat. But behind the marble, the cracks were showing. The army lost faith, peasants stopped trusting the system, and the empire started rotting from the inside. By the time the so-called barbarians showed up, Rome was already a zombie empire, walking but dead inside. They didn't kill Rome, Rome overdosed on its own arrogance. Here's the poetic bit. When money stopped being a promise, the empire stopped being a project, because trust is the real currency. You can mint coins, you can print paper, but you can't print belief. Once people stop believing in your money, they stop believing in you. And that's the real end of Rome. Not a sword through the chest, an invoice they couldn't pay. They didn't fall overnight. They faded, transaction by transaction, until the eternal empire was just another cautionary tale. Moral of the story, mate, you can mint money, but you can't mint prosperity. Inflation is just history's polite way of saying you've overdone it. Rome gave us law, language, architecture, and a perfect 7-step manual on how to mismanage success. And every empire since has read it, then ignored it, because everyone thinks we're not Rome. Yeah, that's what Rome said too. So Rome is gone. The marble's cracked, the coins are dust, and the pattern rolls on. Next stop, Spain, the empire that got rich off silver and somehow still went broke.
Next stop, Spain, the empire that literally hit the jackpot and somehow still went broke. If Rome was the overachiever, Spain was the lottery winner who bought 3 Ferraris and forgot to pay the electricity bill. So picture this. It's the 1500s. Spain just discovered half the planet. Gold and silver are pouring in from the Americas. Ships loaded to the brim. Europe's watching like, damn, these guys are unstoppable. And yeah, for a while, they were. But here's the twist. Too much money can ruin you faster than too little. All that treasure made Spain rich for about 10 minutes. The king started flexing. Palaces, wars, more palaces, more wars. And because they had silver, they thought it would never end. Sound familiar? The same vibe as a crypto bull run. Everyone rich, everyone a genius. But here's the problem. When you flood your economy with easy money, prices go nuts. Inflation goes brrrr. In Madrid, the cost of living doubled in a generation. Bread, wine, armor, everything shot up. Meanwhile, wages? Nah, they stayed in the Middle Ages. The Spanish crown was spending like a rapper in his prime. Wars in Italy, fleets everywhere, and a side project called Let's Conquer the World. Except, they didn't read the fine print. Those wars were expensive, and interest rates don't care how royal you are. By the end of the 1500s, Spain had defaulted 4 times in 40 years. 4. In the time it takes Netflix to finish a show season, Spain went bankrupt again. The real kicker? All that silver, that mountain of New World treasure, was making other countries rich instead. The Dutch, the English, the French, they were trading, investing, building banks. Spain was just spending. They mined the wealth, shipped it home, and watched it melt away in inflation. Imagine discovering America and ending up owing money to the people who didn't. That's a flex, but not the good kind. Spain had more silver than anyone, but by the 1600s, they were borrowing from bankers in Amsterdam just to pay the bills. This is the empire version of the rich but broke story. All image, no liquidity. They mistook wealth for income, and that's the deadliest mistake in economics. You can't run an empire like a shopping spree. And just like Rome, they thought they were special. God's chosen empire, they said. Right, until the invoices showed up.
Watch the tide.
By the time the silver mines dried up and the wars dragged on, Spain's glory started to look like a very shiny illusion. Their money lost trust, their creditors lost patience, and their empire started to shrink, slowly, painfully, like a golden balloon deflating in slow motion. So yeah, Spain taught the world another rule of the collapse pattern. You can't print discipline. Easy money hides bad management until it doesn't. Next up, Britain, an empire so sophisticated it turned its currency into a global brand, and then slowly watched that brand lose value, 1 pound at a time.
All right, let's hop across the channel. Welcome to Britain, the empire that ran the world with tea, trade, and a terrifying amount of spreadsheets. They weren't just powerful, they were efficiently powerful. The kind of empire that color-coded the globe in red just to keep track of their stuff. For 2 centuries, the sun never set on the British Empire, and neither did the debt. From the 1700s through the 1900s, they built the biggest global machine in history. Colonies, navies, railways, all funded on credit, backed by a magic trick called the pound sterling. It wasn't just money, it was brand identity. The pound was trust. If you had it, you were part of the club. And for a long while, the system worked. Trade flowed, industry boomed, and Britain basically invented globalization before globalization was cool. But then, as always, success turned into swagger. Empire maintenance is expensive, mate. Wars, colonies, administration. It's like owning 10 mansions and pretending the cleaning bill doesn't exist. By the early 20th century, the British were everywhere. But being everywhere cost money. The 2 world wars hit like financial meteorites. And by 1945, the empire was still standing, but the balance sheet was bleeding. They'd won the war and lost the bank account. Here's the punchline. While Britain was spending fortunes defending the old world, the United States was quietly buying a new one. Factories booming, dollar strong, gold stacked in vaults. By 1944, the world signs Bretton Woods, and boom, the US dollar becomes the new global standard. The pound? Still noble, but retired. And the irony is almost poetic. Britain invented modern finance, then fell victim to it. Their empire collapsed not with a bang, but with an exchange rate. One by one, colonies gained independence, debts piled up, and the pound lost a little more shine each decade. It's not that Britain stopped being rich, it just stopped being the rich. The global power baton passed across the Atlantic, and for the first time in 200 years, London wasn't the center of the financial universe, it was a very polite museum of what used to be. Here's the brutal truth. Britain's greatest invention wasn't steam engines or telegraphs, it was the empire business model. And when others copied it better, the system turned on its creator. History doesn't reward originality, it rewards adaptability. And by the 1950s, Britain was still playing chess while everyone else was switching to poker. So, lesson number 3 in our pattern. Reserve currencies don't die in crisis, they fade in convenience. One day you're the world's banker, the next you're the guy asking for a loan. And while the pound was quietly losing altitude, another empire was gearing up. New logo, new slogan, same old human confidence. Next up, the United States. Same pattern, bigger budget.
Here we are, the modern empire. No togas, no galleons, no red-coated soldiers, just algorithms, aircraft carriers, and the dollar. The most powerful piece of paper in human history. The United States didn't conquer the world with swords, it did it with confidence and a central bank. After World War II, America was untouchable. Factories booming,
cities shining, everyone buying houses and cars like the credit card was invented by God himself. And in 1944, the rest of the world basically said, okay, we'll trust your dollar. You back it with gold, right? America, totally. Narrator, they did not, in fact, totally. At first, it worked beautifully. The US dollar became the world's anchor. If you traded oil, steel, coffee, anything, you needed dollars. The system was built on trust, and America had plenty. Strong economy, strong army, strong haircuts. But remember what happens when an empire gets too comfortable. Then came Vietnam, the 1970s, and a small issue called spending way more than you earn. The gold reserves couldn't keep up. So in 1971, Nixon said, you know what? Let's just not do the gold thing anymore. The dollar went fully paper, fiat money, as the economists say. Or, as your grandma would call it, pretend cash that still somehow works. And from there, the cycle sped up. Deficits became normal. Printing money became a national sport. Every crisis just hit Control P. Tech booms, wars, recessions, bailouts, the printer's always humming. But hey, it's fine, right? Because the dollar is king. Everyone uses it. Everyone trusts it. Except, slowly that trust is starting to wobble. Inflation hits. Debt hits record highs. The world starts to diversify. Euros, yuan, crypto, who knows? And the US? Still partying like it's 1999, except the DJ is the Federal Reserve. This is the empire's sweet spot. Still strong, still shiny, but running on vibes and credit. Here's the funny part. America's biggest export isn't oil or tech. It's confidence. People believe in the system, so it works. That's the magic trick of all empires. But once that belief cracks, things get interesting. Rome had coins, Spain had silver, Britain had the pound, and America, it's got screens full of numbers that everyone agrees are worth something. Until they don't. Now don't get me wrong, this isn't doomed tomorrow. Empires fade in decades, not days. But if you squint, the signs look familiar. Overreach, debt, inflation, denial, the pattern's there. And like the others, America's biggest risk isn't invasion, it's complacency. The cycle never says you're finished. It just whispers, you've stopped listening. And that's when history clears its throat. Next up, the question everyone asks, can the cycle be broken? Or are we all just watching the same movie with better special effects? All right, so we seen the pattern. Win big, expand bigger, spend too much, print the gap, inflate the bill, lose trust, roll credits. But here's the twist nobody sells on Doom channels. Patterns aren't prison, they're warnings with instructions attached. How do you bend the curve? Short answer, credibility beats chaos. Long answer, 4 levers every empire can pull before the lights flicker. Stop pretending vibes pay invoices. Transparent budgets, honest timelines, no temporary programs that outlive their creators. When leaders admit the bill is real, citizens do the hard thing. They plan, save, and vote like adults. Boring? Yes. Effective? Also yes. If the currency is the empire's heartbeat, the central bank is the cardiologist. Give it independence. Reward boring. No surprise sugar rushes. No justice wants money printer. Trust rises when people believe the referee isn't on the payroll. Debt isn't evil. Useless debt is. Borrow to build energy, logistics, microchips, labs, skills, things that pay you back later. Cut the ribbon on stuff that multiplies, not on things that trend. Infrastructure over influencers.
Empires don't escape decline by arguing better. They escape by producing more per hour. That means tech adoption, education that actually matches jobs, cutting red tape that treats startups like villains, and immigration that attracts talent like a magnet. When the pie grows, politics shrinks. But has anyone done this? Yeah. Plenty of countries stall decline with brutal honesty and good math. It's never pretty, but neither is inflation. And no, reforms don't fix everything tomorrow. They buy time, which is exactly what collapsing empires always run out of. Every empire whispers, "We're different." And maybe you are, if you do different things. Humility is the cheapest stimulus package in history. It lets you admit mistakes fast, change course sooner, and rebuild trust slower than Twitter, but faster than catastrophe. Empires are big. You're not powerless. Think in real terms. Watch purchasing power, not just numbers. Diversify. Income, skills, savings. Don't bet your life on one story. Upgrade. Learn tools that raise your hourly value. Denoise. Fewer hot takes, more primary sources. Local resilience. Community greater than chaos when systems wobble. Cycles don't demand collapse, they demand decisions. Keep the party going on credit, and the bill arrives loud. Slow the music, fix the wiring, and maybe, just maybe, the house stops shaking. If history had a Fitbit, the warning spike is never subtle. Rome ignored it, Spain outspent it. Britain managed the landing but lost altitude. The US and every country watching still has time on the clock. Not to beat history, but to negotiate with it. Empires don't fall because they're hated. They fall because they stop listening to prices, to people, to limits. The rhythm is there if you want to hear it. So, if you could see the next spike before the headlines do, what would you change today? That answer, more than any flag or anthem, is what decides whether a pattern becomes a prophecy or just a warning we finally took seriously.
Empires never think they're in the story's ending. They think they're in the trailer for season 2. Every one of them believed they rewritten the rules. Rome with its roads, Spain with its silver, and Britain with its maps, and America with its algorithms. But the truth? The pattern never cares about your logo. History isn't a straight line, it's a rhythm. Empires rise when they solve a problem the world can't, and they fall when they stop solving it. Rome gave order, Spain gave exploration, Britain gave industry, and the US gave innovation, and each one mistook their gift for immunity. Every empire has its soundtrack. Rome was the clink of coins losing silver. Spain, the echo of galleons heavy with treasure and debt. Britain, the hum of ships leaving ports that no longer mattered. And America, it's the soft, endless buzz of the money printer, steady and hypnotic like white noise in a waiting room. But here's the plot twist nobody expects. Collapse isn't the end, it's a handoff. One empire's failure becomes another's foundation. The ruins of Rome built cathedrals. Spain's conquests built continents. Britain's networks built the internet. Even decline leaves blueprints. The real legacy of empires isn't power, it's pattern recognition. They teach us what works, how long it lasts, and what breaks it. Each fall adds a data point, each rebuild a lesson. And if we're smart, we stop treating history like a horror movie and start reading it like a manual. So maybe the question isn't who's next, maybe it's who's learning. Because if the pattern is inevitable, then awareness is the only rebellion that works. Empires fall when pride shouts louder than math. They fade when noise replaces truth. And they disappear when the people inside them stop caring who's paying the bill. That's not fate, that's choice. History keeps the rhythm steady. Rome, Spain, Britain, and America.
and whoever comes after. The melody changes, but the beat stays the same. So before the credits roll, remember, empires don't die, they teach. And the only real mistake is refusing to listen. This has been the Empire Collapse Pattern. Thanks for watching and for listening to the heartbeat beneath the noise. Because maybe, just maybe, this time we'll finally learn the rhythm before it stops.